The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of the speakers and panelists, and do not necessarily reflect the position of the ETHOS Institute for Public Christianity and its founding institutions and organizations.
Now, my very brief outline, an introduction, and then I talk about Martin Luther on the bubonic plague or the Black Death, a model for today. I hope that this will answer one of the questions which I received before the conference. All right. Then part 3, I'll touch about the main theme, the Ecclesial Responses to mission in the pre-COVID era. Now, that is correct, pre-COVID era. A very brief survey. Then I will come to the post-pandemic time. First, I would like to read John 10, 1-10. It's a special passage during the height of the pandemic. An American biblical scholar did a new reading on that scripture and then came up with some very insightful proposal. Then I will read from the South Africa perspective. As I look at the whole conference, there is no parameter suggests that it is looking from a Singapore perspective, or neither from a so-called English perspective. So that's why, as I mentioned earlier, I'm reading and processing all the information with a Chinese perspective. So I open up the whole possible scenario. Then I came to a paper by an Indian theologian, which we will come to that. 4 to 8, these are some of the responses on social justice, on poverty alleviation, medical health care, palliative and hospice care, psychological counseling to missionary, combat human trafficking, and our response to slavery. Then my conclusion and bibliography. Okay, because this is from my paper. Okay, I just skip this as I mentioned earlier. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to do is review a lesson in church history during the outbreak of the Black Death, also called the bubonic plague, between 1331 to 1770. Actually, it was a very, very long period. We only stopped for 3 years. All right. A short review on the pre-pandemic, which I will take it from the classic text, that is Donald Bush, as my fellow colleague. I just mentioned it. Then I will talk about some of the non-Christian words say about the impact of this pandemic. Then come with the Christian scholar. Okay, try to summarize what the letter Martin Luther wrote to his good friend. All right. Now this is a very brief account of what had happened from 1331 to 1770. Resulted 25 million people died in Europe. From 1347 to 1350, almost 40% of the population then. Okay, come to Reformation, the plague, the pandemic was still going on. So Martin Luther responded in a very pastoral way. Okay, he wrote to a fellow good friend, Dr. Johann Hess. Now, I summarize it almost 20 points. So I just briefly glanced through. I calculated I only can spend 30 seconds on every slide in order to cover all my 52 slides within 30 minutes. So pardon me. That is the way of calculation. Okay? Whether one should flee from the plate, one must have strong faith. But there are the few, many are weak in faith. So it's very clear. Those who engage in a spiritual ministry must likewise remain steadfast before the peril of death. Number 3, where there is enough in one locality, I agree to encourage the other clergy to leave in order not to expose themselves needlessly to danger. Something we have to learn, and something we can learn from the history, okay? But during our time, everybody, because of the lockdown, we have to stay put, we can't go, okay? But if you have a chance, all right? I do not consider such conduct sinful because spiritual services are provided for and because they would have been ready and willing to stay if he had been necessary. 4, those in public service, of course, they have to stay. 5, what applies to these two offices, church and state, should also apply to persons who stand in relationship of service. 6, we are bound to each other in such a way no one may forsake the other in his distress, but is obliged to assist and help. 7, someone is sufficiently bold and strong, let him stay. Okay? No sin. Someone is weak and fearful, let him flee in God's name. As long as he does not neglect his duty towards his neighbor, but has made adequate provision for others, then you can leave. Then he mentioned about the scripture example. Okay, I skip. Number 9, pray against every form of evil and guard against it to the best of our ability. Number 10, anyone who does not do that for his neighbor, forsake and leave him, then become a murderer. Okay? 11, if it is a deadly epidemic strike, we should stay where we are, make our preparation, take courage, and that we cannot desert one another or flee from one another. I am of the opinion that all the epidemic are spread among the people by evil spirit who poison the air or exhale a pestilent breath which puts a deadly poison into the air, into the flesh. So that's why initially we were slow, but very soon our government say, put on your mask. All right? That is something. Second blow against the devil is God's mighty promise. So let's be encouraged. And then 13, again I skip very quickly. God has created medicine and provided us with intelligence to guide and take good of our body so we can live in a good health. So go to doctor. Don't pretend that we still can go to the pharmacy and take Panadol. No, okay? It is even more shameful for a person to pay no heed to his own body and to fail to protect it against the plague the best he is able. 16, use medicine, all right? 17, those who contracted disease and recover should keep away from others and not admit them into his presence unless it be necessary. So quarantine, safe distancing, they are right way. I regard it useful to add some brief. One must admonish the people to attend church and listen to the sermon, so they learn through God's word how to live and how to die. Okay? So even during our breakdown, circuit breaker, we still continue our service through Zoom. Okay? 19, second, everyone should prepare in time, get ready for death by going to confession and taking the sacrament. Okay? I think we should practice Holy Communion every day instead of once a month. Third, if someone wants the chaplain or pastor to come, let the sick people send word in time to call him, inform your pastor. Hey, pastor, I'm COVID C+, so what should I do? Okay? So let me summarize. Martin Luther has said, the pastor is standing at the front line in the epidemic, even into the pandemic, to provide spiritual guidance and support to the community of faith, and if possible, equipped with healthcare knowledge to assist Christians to stay away from the disease and stay healthy in the critical time of health crisis. Thus, it is also applicable to translate these advices into the Ecclesial Response to the mission in the epidemic time. Now, Singapore have so-called the SMM, which we were practicing during the almost 2.5 years. Okay, next come to part 3 is a summary of what David Bush has mentioned. Now, our previous speaker had touched his part of his book. Now, this is the second last chapter of his book. Okay, so this 13 elements actually happen all the times throughout the history. Okay, if you pick up his book, you can read this 1, 2, 3, 4. Allow me to skip because it's all very informative. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, I'm running with time, so pardon me. Okay, in the post-pandemic, okay, first I'd like to introduce you to this paper. Okay, how life could get better or worse after COVID, written by Igor Grossman. Okay, his credential is there, and Olive Tuodos. Okay, both from the States. The 3 most common positive consequences are on social issue, solidarity, structure and political changes, and renewed social connection. These are 2 worries which scholars suggested: increased prejudice or racism, political unrest. Also, this is something we got to bear in mind. Now, this is one of my favorite, all right? A new reading on John 10, 1 to 10. Professor Amy Allen of Christian Theological Seminary, when she wrote this paper, it was released on 27th April. Check the timeline, then you know that was the peak time. She wrote this article. Okay, I pull up some of her article. God sent Jesus to the gate, to be the gate that both keep us well and send us out when the time and the needs are aligned, just as the sheep follow their shepherd, leave the safety of their folds, not for the economic benefit of the few or to satisfy the libertine appetites of the wolf, but to participate in the broader ecosystem of wellness and well-being that their shepherd desire both for them and for their work. We always think about keeping the sheep within the protected zone is a correct reading of John 10. But Jesus said, I'm the gate. Okay? Those who come in through me are the lawful shepherd. All right? That is one idea. But Jesus also said, I am the shepherd. I will lead the flock out of their comfort zone and into the dangerous area. Okay? Outside there you have wolf, you have everything. Now, we need to rethink and read this passage once again. Are we suggesting that let's keep everybody safe? Or are we as a pastor become the gate and then at a suitable, correct time with the knowledge and the power granted from above to lead the flock into the outside world? You can't keep all the sheep within the safe comfort zone forever. All of them will die. So what would this reinterpretation of John 10, 1 to 10 means to us. Okay, then we have this paper from the South Africa perspective. All right, Jerry Pillay, this is his credential. Okay, he suggests the pre-COVID-19 world is gone, replaced by a new normal. The landscape calls for both resilience and adaptation, embracing new ways of doing things and of being church. Churches have to adapt. They have to ask themselves questions about implication for being church. All right? Then he mentioned two forces. See millions of people die, infected, community life destructed. First, focus not so much on the church, but on the realm of God. Second, the pandemic helped us to see the state of the world rather than to focus on the inside of the church. Now, I'd like to introduce you to an Indian theologian, Dr. Wati Longcha. Now, he published a paper in the year 2021. Very quickly, I summarize. He asked two questions. Is healthcare system and pastoral care adequate in Asia? Is food security adequate for all humanity, especially because of the Russia and Ukrainian war? Now we are facing this reality. Now, our response as a church in this post-pandemic era, we got to retune and tweak a little bit of our perspective and understanding of the idea of mission or missions. As our second presenter, now he was right to remind us of the differences and of the focus. So the first issue, our response is to the social justice. Okay? Actually, if you look at Singapore, we ourselves, 14 October 2021 on Straits Times, the reporter revealed workers at Jurong Dome alleged neglect, frustrated with lack of Medicare for COVID-19. Now, we talk about social justice, don't think about the very big thing. Just think about when during that whole period of the so-called lockdown, look at those foreign workers. I mean, it's good that at least Straits Times put it on the paper. So it reminds us that whenever we come to the issue of social justice, think about something that is down to earth, practical, relevant to our church situation. What should we do? To poverty alleviation. This is a bishop in England. He wrote a book, Blessed Are the Poor, Urban Poverty and the Church. All right? I put up some of his ideas. He introduced us to the Britain's poorest housing estate and used a radical age of contextual theology to present a prophetic challenge to each one of us and to a church which is reluctant to respond seriously to the challenge of the Beatitude. People with underprivileged social status and economic condition may resist the gospel unless the poverty condition have been improved. You talk to those who stay in the single-digit block number in Chinatown, if you know what I'm talking. Chinatown, there are two kinds of HDB block. All right? One is single-digit, one is three-digit. Single digits are all the rental housing. Some even have two households in one unit. All right? They were just relying on government social welfare subsidies. What they do every day is go down to collect paper, cardboard, and sell for a living. Now, how are you going to preach gospel to them? Unless they come up from their so-called financial situation. medical health care, palliative and hospice care. Now, this is something come to our minds, especially when I read all the papers since last December. I read all the books. I try to gather as much information as I can. Try to calm down and try to sit down and write something about what I read and try to put it together. Now we talk about medical missionary. Now the figures in the USA, all right, is about 60,000 a year to support a missionary in the field, including things like salary, insurance, language training, education, housing, documentation, travel, and retirement saving. Okay, this is something we support one medical missionary. And in our situation during this post-pandemic eras, the healthcare challenges are even greater than before. Then we're talking about the palliative care and the hospice care. Now, Singapore, we are so blessed. Our government and those so-called NGO, volunteer, they are all putting all their efforts, resources together to provide all these kind of healthcare needs. But what about the church? I'm not only talking about the church in Singapore, the worldwide church. How should we respond and react? So we need to really think about, providing services to the sick and to the elderly folks. Now there's another paper, all right, in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, say that palliative care is a special form of disinterested charity. As such, it should be encouraged. I mean, nursing industry, we always call it a kind of dirty job. Nobody want to do it, in a sense, because you have to deal with everything and anything, all right? So that's why, in a way that we always salute all the nurses, all the healthcare provider. But the challenge is so great, right? Our government always says that not only the government is doing things, but the government always emphasizes that let all the social group come in and contribute what you can provide for the whole industry or even for the whole ministry. Psychological counseling to missionary. Another paper. Downstairs is her credential. She suggested that we need to handle and overcome missionary facing emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritual challenges. Okay? So, 3 ideas. Expanding training that focus on care for missionary and their families is important. This means learning more about the specific struggles faced on the mission field. Second, biblical counselor can help is to be open to serve on short-term mission trip, specifically to support the mission team with biblical counseling. Finally, pray for those serving. Knowing someone is praying for the specific needs they face can be a great source of encouragement to those who are serving on the mission field. Now, this is an area I find that during my reading, not many missionary agencies provide psychological and so-called counseling support to the missionary in the field. All right? This is one of the areas we should look at it. And then Professor William suggested that I contend that Christians who counsel of all sorts and of all backgrounds have been missiologically myopic. As a result of this myopia, we have failed to speak prophetically into the mental health subculture. Each group has its reason, but we all share in this failure. Now, this is something we need to think about and then look into it very seriously. All right? Counseling support is something that everybody is looking for, even the pastor. All right. To combat human trafficking is another issue that I would like to suggest is one of the responses that we can do in the post-pandemic time. This has been a historical issue, but there is this book I'd like to suggest that if you can have a look and read it, all right? Carson listed 4 forms of human trafficking in today's world: chattel slavery, bondage or forced labor, sex slavery, and child labor. It still happens in today's world. So what should we do? Church response to slavery. Carson also devoted 2 chapters on slavery. Now, at the grassroots level, Christians can become involved in practical work, rescuing and caring for the victim of the trafficker, welcoming them into the church, and enabling their reintegration into society. Second, prevention work is important, raising awareness of the problem amongst the public. Third, we can educate those at risk to have a healthy view of their intrinsic worth and human dignity, and to be able to recognize the mindset they see others as inferior to themselves or as an object to be bought and sold. If we translate the whole suggestion into our Singapore scenario, many of us here, you may have 1 or 2 Filipino maid, Indonesian maid, whatever in your household. How are you going to treat them? Cheap labor? Of course, today is not cheap. Everything you add up. Recently, I spoke to someone. He said, wow, you've added up everything. A foreign worker from Myanmar. Just 2 days ago, I spoke to this young lady who is a boss of a company. She told me, just to engage 1 Myanmar labor, everything when it add up is 4,000 to 5,000 per month. 4,000 to 5,000 per month. Then she said, we are just a so-called small business. How am I going to afford to employ 2 or 3 workers just for this job? All right. So today, foreign worker is no longer cheap. But how are we going to look at the situation? If you do have a maid, a housemaid, then that is the way we really translate the idea of slavery into our daily life. All right? Treat them well with dignity. They are serving you, they are helping you. All right? They are not slave. They are housemaid. Okay? So our government say, allow them to have a day break. You can't replace the day break with money. That is the whole purpose. Okay, very quickly, my conclusion. Archbishop of Canterbury, the current Archbishop, now he mentioned something on April 30th, 2021. Okay, let me summarize to save the time. Social care for the dignity of everyone. the value of the elderly, and the mental health of people. These are the three so-called issues that I think is also valid in our Singapore scenario. Don't you agree? Okay. Now, too many challenges. The church has to respond in the post-pandemic era. Cooperatively, consolidative, the concerted efforts would enable and empower the church to react quickly and effectively in the mission field. A local church, notice I purposely play with the word capital C and small c, could play a part in response to one of the above mentioned issues. But it takes the church to meet the challenge of all the issues and perhaps even more. In this post-pandemic era, the church depends on professional expert specialists to provide guides and direction to handle this special ministry. Here ends my presentation. I hope that gives you some idea of what I have read for the past 10 months. Thank you.